All right. Well, welcome everyone. It is Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. Good to be with you. Yeah, it's me and the dog doing some charts. New all-time highs yet again today. Didn't look like it was going to happen. Interesting day, super low volume. We peaked at around 1:30 p.m. We'll see what some of the drivers were. It might not be what you expected, but Saudi Arabia had a multiple sigma move, up 1.5%, much correlated with the 1.25% rise in oil. Usually correlates that way. And then Bitcoin continues to struggle, and home construction names were down pretty good today, about 2%. All that being said, new all-time highs for SPY, the semiconductors ETF, tech at large, XLK, and India. So let's take a look, and we have some shakeups with the best trades of the week now going back 5 days. Its best trades are long semis, short nat gas, and short solar. We were having our eyes for solar. If the market broadens, I thought there was going to be an opportunity there to make money. But let's see my doc here, and then let's see what actually drove it. So here I go. Here, Saudi Arabia gains 1.5%. And home construction names struggle new all-time highs, as I said, for SPY, semiconductors, tech, and India. Saudi Arabia was up 1.5% today. IBIT ETF was down 3.2%, getting hit. And home construction down 1.8%. The top five gainers of the past 5 days, including those making new all-time highs today, is one we just aforementioned. Semis and tech, a lot of strength there. Those names, continue to climb. And then India, it's a new 52-week high. And then we'll take a little zoom on the losers. All right, so for right now, let me show the screen of the intraday S&P chart. So, nice to see really low volume today. I believe SPY hit 29 million shares. So I'm looking, it was 36 million shares. So still very low, but ever short of dull market, especially, mid-June, these kind of doldrums. But here on the intraday chart, we peaked at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. So that is your new high, 548.62. And we basically are right within that here at the close. VWAP back at 547.85. So strong all day in terms of, like I said, larger prospects or targets. I had marked June 18th from about 2.5 weeks ago, which is typically the kind of cycle highs and lows oscillation that I look at. And my range has been, upgraded to about 545, basically where we are. Not much more than that. All that being said, where we go from here, I've been saying it, somewhere around 533. So I'm going to zoom out for 1 year. So all that being said, just see a little bit of consolidation down about 15 points or about 3% over the next 2.5 weeks. I wouldn't chase right here. Those short-term momentum could take it higher, but we are overbought here. And typically, you can see it start to dip. Now, in the bigger picture, I like looking at stochastic momentum mix. This was a unusually crazy run that the markets had, just really one way up from November 17th to about April 1st. It didn't stop, truly. And you can look at lots of measures. It didn't even really break the 50 RSI on a 14-day. So it's pretty tough. Like any kind of shorts, you got hosed on that. All that being said, I see the conditions kind of showing itself again. Just a very strong market. You get any kind of broadening of this continuing to the left. All that being said, I'm not changing any forecast. Still see 600 for year end. All right, let's get into the doc and let's take a look at some charts now and some opportunities. So let's take a look at the Saudi Arabia. It was in the, we're focusing on it because it had a big up day and where not many areas did. So Saudi Arabia, not an amazing story. I don't love that its highs were, back here, April 9th. Don't love that. It is trying its hardest, its damnedest, to get to this 200-day moving average. 41, it's locked at 41.50. A nice gasp up here to try and get to that. It's been under the 200-day moving average since May 22nd, really having a hard time. You see what's going on with oil, although we'll look at a bifurcation, oil and oil stocks. Oil, ironically, is the fourth best long in the market for the past week on a short time frame, obviously. And XOP, or oil and gas exploration production stocks, are the fourth worst area. So, as we always say, trading's easy. So here, this looks like it made its gasp. It kind of has been rare since, I'll say, mid-April. After this, really hasn't shown any real strength. It immediately gave up the 50 RSI too on a 14-day and just hasn't looked the same since April 12th. And usually, as we're about to consume a lot of gasoline driving July 4, flying July 4, and all that, typically seasonally you see this a little bit higher, but this looks a little bit weak. Specifically KSA now. This is Saudi Arabia. I'm projecting, correlating oil in my head. All that being said, I know it just looks like absolute tops. It would get to 42. I don't think that's going to happen. I think this actually has a hard time getting over its 21 EMA, which it just did today. But I mean, holding it for more than 2 days, which it hasn't been able to do since April, which is when it was a different security. Quite frankly, it had those highs. We'll see if this is a change, but I think it's tired right around here around 41. So we'll see. All right, but that was the only thing that they were buying today. Interesting they rotate into something like that. For the down moves, let's look. Bitto is the one. I'm going to go Bitto here just so I get more history. But IBIT was the one that was down hard today. You're going to get similar moves in all of it. So I'll just go right to Bitto because it has a lot of history in the chart, so that makes it a little bit prettier to look at. So this is Bitto. Yeah, I think it's a buy here. I think that's at support. It might go a little bit lower. You have the ultimate support there at 2234. Specifically, again, I'm looking at Bitto. So you have a little bit, 10%, a little bit less than 10% cushion here. It could be a little bit more volatile, but I do think the support here hangs in. The bad news is I don't think anything amazing, unfortunately, is going to happen right here. I think it's going to try and climb to 26, which is a nice move, $1.80 or what is that, 7.5%. So a nice move. Bitcoin obviously itself does not look good. I think it's at 64K or something like that. And then ultimately, if it really wants to tangle, it can get 27.5, and that would be exhausted. So anything up here to get to these May highs, obviously Bitcoin is volatile, but similar to Saudi Arabia, Bitcoin actually put its highs in it before an ETF just like that. It still has rising 200-day moving average, but yeah, this one hasn't looked quite the same since putting in its highs. It didn't have that momentum and immediately lower highs put in. So Bitto is what they sold. And then the other thing that they sold today, only really two areas and a multiple sigma move, it was home construction stocks. So let's see, down 1.7. Yeah, this was a absolute like glimmering stock ETF back here. I remember trading this a bunch. For the portfolio back here. It peaked in March. Obviously, rate story is a little bit different, higher for longer, and what mortgage buyers have to, tuggle or wrestle with. Tuggle. What was I trying to combine? Two words. Wrestle and struggle. I don't know. I'm struggling. Wrestling. Anyways, so the support is down here at 97. You got such a monster line of resistance at 110. It's going to keep a lid on it. And then again, it's at 103 now, so you can make 7 points, right? Do you see that happening? I think it kind of used a lot of its energy just to hold its 21 EMA of around 105. It's just contending with that. I don't love this. I think there's better areas to go in. Not terrible, but there's just better areas. And this is one of the areas they sold today. All right. Top 5 gainers the past 5 days, no repeats. SMH to new all-time highs, up 8.5% in the past week. I was looking at this chart earlier today. This thing is nosebleed territory now. It's an 81 on the RSI, for goodness sakes. So typically, this is good exercise, so I didn't look at this specifically. But we did have 81 before in RSI, so most recently it was back here March 7th. So good news, bad news. So March 7th, when we had that crazy reading, we were trading 235. It went to 200 on April 19th, so some weeks later. So you can get some precipitous falls. Other than that, let me see. It doesn't always happen, though. So here, I believe you got to pretty much, yeah, here you got to an 80 RSI, and it had a very small pullback, and it can continue to ramp higher. I'm curious what happens here, but all that being said, this should consolidate to about, at highest, 265. So a 12-point or 4 or 5% reduction seems to be necessary. This is a little bit frothy here. I'm saying that from a technical basis. Still looks immensely strong, the best of the chart we've seen, really. But this should come down a bit. And I wouldn't be shocked if you have a big down day or a couple of days. Taiwan, new 52-week highs. I'm getting a momentum breakout alert from my other data provider. This looks also kind of a little bit too extended. This is correlated with Taiwan Semi. We were just looking at the semiconductors chart to new all-time highs. We were talking about specifically Taiwan Semi yesterday because you hit it all in the head. Tech, semis, Taiwan, ding, 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 almost like the casinos lining up. If you have that in the casino, what do they call that? I only had like half a cup of coffee today. The slots. If you had that in the slots, it would have been a nice couple of trading days for you. All that being said, I see this a little bit just giving back to like 53, potentially 53 even, which would be pretty hard fall in terms of percentage for a country ETF. But yep, new 52-week highs for EWT today. All right, we'll look at the broader XLK. This is the tech sector. So EWT was up 5.5% in the past 5 days. Tech just up a little bit less, up 5% for the past 5 days. So really, the core, the alpha of trading, of capturing that has been in semiconductors. It's been this craziness in NVIDIA and Super.com and whatever com. So tech 231. Yeah, this looks nosebleed territory as well. This should come down to around 225. That's a 6-point reduction. Not crazy, but this stuff should come down. This is quite overbought. And this is the broader sector. As you can see, this doesn't get overbought. Like, you'll see huge shades of blue for months and months. Like semiconductors, that's almost, ganged up mentality. This is broader tech. This is very heavy, Microsoft, Apple, especially with Apple's recent run, which I think is going to be a major contributor to S&P 6,000. This just has some air to come back. I think ultimately it might try to move towards 217 over the next, into early July, but we'll see. All right, oil. Let's take a look at oil. It's pretty interesting. So oil's up 4% over the past week. It has looked good. Let's see where it goes from here. Yeah, I think it's hit its head. That was it, in my opinion. I have resistance at 79, and I'm rounding, but I don't think it's going to have what it takes to get from 71 to 79 in just that bunch of sessions. And we've said before, my stance on this was that's going to straddle basically 74.5, give or take, a couple of bucks. It's just really having a hard time trying to hold this 200-day moving average, more so in the past 2 weeks. I'm not saying over the lifetime. It's still, even now it's starting to flatten, but it is starting to rise slightly. It's going up by a penny in the 200-day moving average, and it's settled here at 74.53. All that being said, like I said, to open when we started this chart discussion about USO, I think that is it at 79, and I think over the next 2-3 weeks, this is going to go towards 75. I think that gravity will pull it back. And then uranium, the fifth best long of the market in the past week. So far, like I said, a lot of these are tired, overextended, expecting short-term consolidation. There's trades around that. You can buy puts, you can sell calls. VIX is pretty low. You could get into other areas like a uranium that's not super correlated with, semiconductors, although they are to an extent because they're using AI. So uranium peaked on May 20th at 33.66. It's within 10% that year, a nice 2.5% jump today. This looks like it wants to go higher, but it does look heavy. Overhead. I don't think it's going to get to that very easily. Yeah, this was a nice start. I think it's in accumulation mode. I think it wants to get to 31. So today I think it might have done a lot of it. Maybe ultimately 32, but I don't see new 52-week highs. But every time I try to short uranium or even get bearish on it, it's never faded superstar. And look at this, the strength of its 200-day moving average, nothing. This is actually a great buy entry if you had this opportunity on June 11th, just last week. That would have been great. The lows today would have been great because this hasn't even touched the 200-day moving average. Some scary times right now. It doesn't have a superstar profile in terms of it struggling to recapture its 14-day 50 RSI, but it's a winner. Make no mistake. You just have to put up with the volatility and you get paid through it. But yeah, this one's slowly coming up. I think this one could I don't want to say leap, but it could go higher. I don't think it's super right for investment, but if I had to commit to one area, uranium doesn't look awful. Although the whole market at large looks extended. I did have June 18th for a kind of top date in the short term. Nat gas, a big up day. The funny part is nat gas is the second best trade overall in the market, and it's the best short in the market. It's down 7% in the past 5 days. So let me zoom in. Such a piece of crap. It looks like, and this, what I said, if you were like a great short astute trader, once it tagged this 200-day moving average, you would get short. So look what's happening. We're getting very close again. Thing is, I don't think it's going to do it. I think today was sort of, like an aberration. I think it's tired here and it starts to move back down. But if you do get a tag of that 200-day at 2087, I would put in a sell order and know that this is going to go down to about 19 even. And there's your trade on that. Could go either way from here, though. TAN, I'm happy this one is being highlighted here. It's down 6% in the past week. I said TAN would be an area of big gains if it was able to hold its 200-day moving average for about a month or so. I went to be late to the party on that, and then could see it, really staging a big turnaround. So look what happened. It's having a war here with it since May 28th. I'd like to see it, basically hold this cleanly through, let's say, June 28th. It couldn't quite do it here. A little bit of weakness. It's kind of doing it. Today was up 40 bips. Don't love that. That's not the strength you want to see. It's starting to get back. Excuse me. We'll see what happens. The funny part is, I think it hangs around 46 for a while, and the level that we're looking at is 46.11, and it's going lower, though, by about 7 cents or so a day. So this might be 46 by next week. If you start to hover above that, it could look interesting, but this one's a messy trade. And it's not as easy as I want to say as maybe make it sound. This thing we have to hold the 200-day for, through the end of the month, ideally. And then you want to see it make a move towards around 49. That's not easy because that's almost a 10% jump. And then you want to see it get to these $54 price target where it was these Christmas, 6-month highs. And then things can go from there. So a lot of work to do with TAN. I'm less hopeful. The third biggest loser in the market the past week has been Bitcoin, down 4.5%. And then let's look at XOP. So XOP, interesting one, down 4.5% over the past week. So as I said, pretty interesting juxtaposition of oil being the fourth best long in the market and oil stocks on the oil and gas side being the fourth worst or fourth best short. So it's pretty strange that you get that. They're pretty correlated. Let's see. This peaked April 12th. Its line, and I think this is actually flat. Yeah, this actually 200 days now going lower. You have to zoom in. It's actually going lower. It's down to 144 even now, I'll say. That area should serve as support. I think 141 honestly looks like a little bit of support. It just looks like it wants to test that. So I think it goes here. But this does not look like a super positive story. You may get a mean reversion bump to 148. But then I think that would be a sign to sell. So interesting, messy, kind of an ugly chart here. Kind of losing its profile, its superstar profile. Had a sharp decline here after the highs were put in, and that is okay. What I don't like is this this trading at April 30th, May 1st here. It just looks like this 153 is way away with crazy resistance and lower highs that you can see in sequence. So that's not a great slinky going lower. And lastly, ARKG down about 4% in the past week. I am sure this is actually one of my market shorts, how I hedge the portfolio. So I'm short this sucker. I was short ARK. Now I'm short ARKG because it looked weaker. And voila, it is. This thing is immensely heavy at its 200-day, which it has not even tried to get to since basically St. Patty's Day back in March. In terms of the cycle of where it is, it usually straddles this $25 mark. Here it was down, 20 bips. I think this wants to head lower like the market, and I think this wants to rest at about 23. That would be huge for my puts. I am long the July 25 puts. I bought them, I bought them way back here. It was definitely 26-ish handle because they were out the money then. So, this looks like it wants to go lower. Not a ton more. I would say maybe like 23.75, something like that. Yeah, but touch below the lower band. All right. So all that being said, best three absolute trades of the week: long semis, short nat gas, short solar, the TAN. Out of everything I've seen here, it looks like things are a little bit capped here. All that being said, the market's still at all-time highs climbing. Super low volume day today. I think they were smelling out tomorrow, Juneteenth, a closed day. And then we'll see what Thursday, Friday, the rest of the week have to bring. All right, peace.